Madam Chairman, I, I apologize for interrupting, but we can't hear you on the Zoom side. If Secretary Eatman, if she could press that button that we were unsure about, if she knows what I'm talking about, that should resolve the issue.
Can you hear me now? 3 times?
I can hear you. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Good. We have an expert live with us helping get the audio to work.
We can hear you on the Zoom side now, Madam Chairman.
Round of applause for Mr. Schwab. Thank you, Jamie. All right, with that, we'll get going with House Bill 33, interference with public contracting. Ms. Legursky, Mr. Madsen, thank you for being here this morning. I just frightened Senator Cole by telling him he would explain the bill to the committee this morning, who of course was not here in the interim. He is rapidly underlining and taking notes of things in order to do that. However, it might be prudent maybe to have some of those folks with us here in the room and keep a quorum up here to have you walk us through the bill if you'd be so inclined, Ms. Legursky, since you know more about these bills than most.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and good morning. I will certainly do my best in walking through the bill. I'll be honest, since it was an interim bill, I've just briefly reviewed it this morning since, we are supportive of it, keeping the bidding process, the integrity of it alive. So starting off on the bill, it is interference with public contracting. The first section, starting on page 2, just goes through the definitions, which are standard definitions.
And Ms. Legursky, would you just introduce yourself and who you're with?
Oh, I apologize for that, Madam Chairman. I'm Katie Legursky with the Associated General Contractors of Wyoming.
And thank you. And Ms. Legursky, you are kind of a subject matter expert in understanding how public contracts are let, how that process looks, who those contractors are associated with typically receiving those bids and who's bidding. And so your understanding and familiarity with these laws is significant.
Correct. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
That's called vouching for the credibility of the case. It's typically discouraged in the courtroom, but now we're going to go ahead and do that.
And I guess I should have start off with, Madam Chair, that this bill is in essence what they refer to as a Little Sherman Act. There is federal antitrust and bid rigging statutes at the federal level known as the Sherman Antitrust Act. This statute is based off of, if memory serves me correctly, from Illinois, and it does match pretty much a lot of the other state statutes. So just starting off into the meat on it, on page 4, it talks about what is bid rigging, the penalties, if an individual for a contractor would to perform bid rigging. Bid rotation is the next session. What that is bid rotation. Oftentimes people believe that contractors will get together or public entities will get together and decide that this time this particular contractor is going to be the low bid. And then they continue to just rotate among a few bidders so that they know which one supposedly would get the bid in the future. So it's called a bid rotation, basically moving it from contractor to contractor. The next section, 65404, is the acquisition or disclosure of bidding information by a public servant. What that section covers is collusion among project owners, public servants who may intentionally provide information to the contractor in hopes that they would be the one to receive the low bid, and that is definitely if they do it intentionally. The next section is 65405, interference with contract submissions, award by a public servant. Again, that's some additional information from the project owner or the public servant that provides information to an entity in order for them to in essence rig the bid, provide additional information in hopes that they are the low bid. It also goes into what the fines are, with the fine not more than $1,000. Goes into a little more detail on what those fines are, what a public servant is, and how they directly or indirectly provide information. The next section, 65406, goes into kickbacks, penalties, and civil action. Kickbacks is basically that if you provide me information, I provide you with a kickback for giving me that information in hopes that I will become the low bidder. Again, it has the penalties in there as a misdemeanor, fined by $1,000 or imprisonment by not more than 1 year. And I believe it also has that the government entity may file a civil action to recover the civil penalty about 2 times the amount. The next section, 65407, is bribery of an inspector employed by a contractor. This section is if a person commits bribery of an inspector to receive additional information regarding the bids. And the next section talks about the prohibitions for bidding, section 65408, that Any person who's convicted of any of the offenses under this article or similar offenses under federal law shall be barred from bidding any work for the next 3 years from government entity. And that is pretty much the teeth of it, especially on the contractor side of things, that the stiffest penalty for the contractors that may engage in the collusion process is being barred from bidding any projects in the future. And with that, I just stand for any questions. That's just a very quick overview. And again, I do apologize since I wasn't prepared to present the bill this morning, but I could provide just a little more information in my testimony that goes to the heart of the matter, if you don't mind, Madam Chair.
Ms. Legursky, thank you so much for stepping up. And I knew if anybody in the room could pull it off with no notice, it would be you. So thank you for doing that and understanding that you have not sponsored the bill or asked for the bill to come forward, but that you are familiar with the concepts in the bill. And thank you very much for doing that. So now if you would like to provide your opinion or public comment or recommendations, amendments to the bill, please proceed with that.
Thank you. Again, Madam Chairman, I'm Katie Legursky with the Associated General Contractors, and with me is our Legislative Chair, Mark Mattson. Wyoming contractors know better than anyone that bid rigging is an illegal practice in which competing companies or the project owner collude to determine the winner of the bid. When bidders or project owners coordinate, it undermines the bidding process and oftentimes results in a rigged price that is higher than what might have resulted in a competitive bidding process. AGC of Wyoming is supportive of protecting the integrity of the bid process. And with that, I stand for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Legursky. Are you happy with the work that the House did on the bill? I see that we have an engrossed version. Do you have any additional suggestions to the bill?
Madam Chairman, we are very pleased with the amendment that the House had added to give us a little clarification for when contractors must speak to public entities to find out additional information on a particular bid. And those usually center around design issues or logistics. So sometimes contractors do need clarification on a particular design specification, if there's missing quantities. Sometimes estimators do find problems with the bid, that something's either missing or there's incorrect, and therefore they go to the public entity to see if they would offer what they call an addendum. This does not provide an unfair advantage because this is the same information the public entities would share with all contractors. It is public information. So we did make a few minor tweaks to that we worked in conjunction with WAM and also with the county commissioners, and they were very supportive of that. So the amendments that did come through the House, we are very supportive of. And at this point in time, we do not have any further suggested changes to the bill.
Thank you, Ms. Legursky. Mr. Mattson, would you like to introduce yourself to the committee and any comments?
Madam Chairman, members of committee, I'm Mark Mattson with AGC of Wyoming from a legislative perspective, but WHS Engineering in Rock Springs. I'd like to just point out, I started at the DOT, became a vendor, became a technical expert, then became a contractor. Now I'm a designer. So all factions of this have been sort of covered in my weird career. I would like to just briefly discuss about the antitrust rules that the AGC runs in every meeting. So essentially we start every meeting with the laundry list of antitrust reminders to every single contractor. It's interesting in Wyoming, we're all friends. It's a small community. It would be easy to assume these guys are having the discussions that they shouldn't be. So we like to remind them, and it has been 30 years solid, every meeting starting with antitrust rules. Briefly speaking to what Ms. Legursky just pointed out, the addendum process is intended to make sure that everybody gets the same information. So you can imagine the trap us as a designers could get into when somebody finds an error or omission in our plans, that we can't have that discussion just with that one contractor because it would change everything. So that's just sort of a quick reminder. But other than that, I would say everybody agrees that bid rigging is illegal, and we don't really have a problem with the bill. Stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mattson. Questions for Mr. Mattson? Senator Kolb.
There we go. Good morning. So you believe that the way this bill's currently proposed, written, that it's covered, that we would have a scenario where, like you said, that the change order or to a bid didn't go to all bidders, and then only a select, maybe one of the bidders were told or maybe they agreed with that one bidder to change the scope of the bid, this has happened. And so I want to make sure that we've got ourselves covered very well in this aspect of this bill, that we're going to preclude that from happening, because I think it's absolutely unfair. It's more like insider information more than anything. And I wanted to hear your opinion. Thank you.
Ms. Ligursky?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Senator Kolb. So there's a difference between an addendum and a change order. An addendum is prior to the bid, where they do some clarification on the actual bid, the scope of work. A change order is when a contractor has already been awarded the contract, and then at that point find additional problems or issues with it. Then at that point, they have to do a change order. So at that point, a change order, the contract has already been awarded to a contractor, whereas an addendum comes out prior to the official bidding of a contract. And the amendments that we made within the House will ensure that we are able to talk to that public entity, get some clarification on missing items, even as simple as your manhole elevation wasn't included in the plans. I need that in order to bid. Is there a staging area? Where is my water source? Those type of general questions. But when it comes to a change order, that's after the contract has already been issued.
Mr. Madsen?
Madam Chairman, members of the committee, I just ran through this very scenario. So it's very interesting and pretty delineated on how we deal with it. So we're bidding this. I mean, we're designing this job. We're putting it out to work bids in the next couple of weeks. They found some errors and omissions in the plans, and essentially what we did in both sets of design regs, we had a limit for when they could ask the questions. We didn't answer them. Then we issued an addendum. Then we did it again because there were a few things that changed on the plans. But this is the intent, is that we need to make sure everybody gets the exact same information. So I would answer it yes. I believe it's covered in this bill.
Senator Cole, follow up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As per municipalities also.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not so much you folks out there in your world, but as it relates to municipalities. Okay, thank you.
Senator French?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Do you guys have a process to try to identify bid rigging, all these things that are in the bill here? I mean, how do you go about, is it just rumor, contractor A and contractor B have been working, behind the scenes? How do you ferret that out?
Ms. Ligursky?
Madam Chairman and Senator French, that is a extremely difficult question. I've been with the contractors now for 15 years and have not come across where actual bid rigging has honestly taken place. There have been occurrences where a contractor may be shopping their bid with other contractors. We do a very good job. The minute that we hear about that, we remind our members that that's a violation of the antitrust. We hold pretty firm to that. We continually speak about it before, especially if YDOT bids. We meet the night before the YDOT letting. We remind the people on the antitrust. We remind them what they can and cannot do. Our members do a very good job of also self-policing themselves with that. But if there is in fact bid rigging going on, it's pretty evident, it's pretty obvious. And either the public entity or other contractors will take the necessary legal action. Again, I'm unfamiliar with any recent situations within the state of Wyoming. Like I said, the last 15 years, I'm unaware of a contractor or a public servant engaging in any of these type of practices.
Mr. Madsen, any follow-up there?
Madam Chairman, members of the committee, we also have the average weighted bid prices. And so it's very, very obvious after the fact how people looked at the job. So there is sort of a policing mechanism built into how anybody who bid on that particular project, they would look at the bid results, so you have an engineer's estimate based on average weighted bid prices over time. And then you would have the 3 bidders and every number on every bid item. So if there's a red flag right there that they would notice. And I feel very secure with that idea. And I'm not familiar with every municipality, but I believe as long as those documents are available to the public, it is covered.
Senator Kolb.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess back to the addendum issue. If there's addendums that go out, they don't go out to everybody. I've heard it been said that, a certain contractor went over and above what they were asked to do by the scope and then submitted a bid that had other things within that bid. The other contractors weren't, or the other bidders weren't made aware of any of those amendments, addendums. And so when the bids were open, people would say, well, then look at this person, look at a great job they did. They went over and above, which makes me think, well, I guess the project wasn't scoped out quite right at that point, right? Because you didn't include everything. But we would have a mechanism in here that, I don't know. I want you to, if you could, walk me through the process of somebody complaining, say you see that a discrepancy in the way that bids were handled. What does an individual firm do to lodge a complaint, and how would that work to go through the process? Thank you.
Mr. Madsen.
Madam Chairman, members of the committee, certainly that would be a problem. And so you should have your scope absolutely defined, and anything that's extra should not be relevant to the bid request. I mean, that's why they do it that way. This is exactly the amount of work that you're supposed to be doing. So additional doesn't change anything the way they should look. So let's think about how they do it after the fact. Should that situation happen, the mechanism has got to be that I can lodge a complaint and that you have a meeting of fair individuals to look at that complaint and say that logic does not hold water because it was not within the scope. And I feel that exists here, and I think it should exist if it doesn't with any other bid.
Ms. Legursky.
And Madam Chairman, let me just add a little further to that. For instance, if it was a Wyoming Department of Transportation bid, the letting takes place the second Thursday of the month. The Transportation Commission meets the third Thursday of the month to review those contracts, to look at those contracts. A contractor at that time who may not be the low bidder or maybe a high bidder would have the opportunity to go to the Transportation Commission at that time and lodge their complaint regarding another bid, or to defend his bid as well too. Contractors know that they're supposed to bid the scope of the work that's included in the plans. It's also the responsibility of the project owner to review those plans and award it to the responsible low bidder. By using a number of techniques that they do have. There have been occasions where contractors have gone to the public entity and they have protested the particular, not necessarily award, or have protested the bidding process. And we have had counties and city entities that have rejected all bids and then later have gone out to put that out to bid again. So it is common practice, and there is avenues for contractors to go in there and speak on behalf of a particular bidding process.
Anything further? All right. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Appreciate you greatly for pulling this bill. All right, with that, we'll go to YDOT. I know we have a number of professionals from YDOT here with us on Zoom. If they could start their videos, all 4 of you, if you would. And we'll start with Director Reiner. Good to see you this morning, Director Reiner.
Good morning, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, Luke Reiner, Director YDOT. Madam Chairman, I'll be brief and let my experts brief you on this, but really from YDOT standpoint, I appreciate our relationship with AGC. We do a lot of business, certainly in this arena of letting contracts, and are very interested in making sure it's done correctly and right. With that being said, I have no issues with the bill, but would happily stand for questions, but would really like to, I think, kick it over to our chief engineer, Mr. Mark Gillette, for any comments he might have. And then maybe we can hear from Mr. Fulton and then do wide out all questions, ma'am.
Thank you, Director. With that, we'll go to Mr. Gillette. Mr. Gillette, welcome back to the Judiciary Committee. Good to see you this morning. If you'd go ahead and share your thoughts with us on the bill.
Yeah, good morning, Madam Chairman. I'm Mark Gillette, Chief Engineer for WYDOT, and don't really have much more to say than what the Director said. We do work very closely with the AGC, and we take integrity of the fair bidding process very seriously. And as Ms. Legursky mentioned, we have rejected bids in the past when we believe that that was not upheld. And so we have I have no issues with the bill. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Gillette. Mr. Fulton, we'll go to you now. If you would introduce yourself to the committee.
Yep, thank you. I'm Keith Fulton, the Assistant Chief Engineer for WYDOT, and I would just echo the comments from Mr. Gillette and Director Reiner.
Wonderful. Questions for WYDOT? I have a couple questions for you. As the government entity who puts out these requests for bids, how often or how frequently do you receive challenges to the bid process from potential bidders?
Madam Chair, it's not real often, but we do have contractors that come to our commission meetings where the projects are awarded and voice their concern if they so choose, but probably not very often. Maybe, we have a commission meeting once a month, and I would guess maybe 25% of the time. Keith, you have anything for that?
No, we like Mark said, we do not see a lot of people coming in questioning the process itself. There may be questions on bids and things like that and work done, but other than that, no.
And just one more follow-up. If you did have concerns about some type of unlawful practice associated with the bidding, who would you report that to?
Madam Chair, if we see something which, as noted by Ms. Legursky, we have about a week to review the bids. And if we see something that kind of raises a red flag, it is brought forward to our commission at the time of the meeting. And that's typically how we deal with it, and the commission decides whether to award a bid or not. Keith, anything else?
Perhaps maybe you'd go to the Attorney General's office, who would then maybe trigger an investigation since there's criminal penalties in process.
Madam Chairman, yes, we do have an AG rep that sits in at our commission meetings and would be involved if we do have issues, and we would bring it to their attention and work with them.
Wonderful. Welcome back, Senator Cooper. Good to see you. Do you have any questions for WYDOT on House Bill 33? All right. Anything, Senator Kolb?
Thank you, Madam Chair. How would you determine the bid rotation issue that may come up? How would you ascertain that? And then more specifically, if it came to awarding a bid under a situation where you believe there was some misdeeds done, do you award the bid? Do you hold the bid? I'm sure there'd be lawsuits over some action without justification. I just wondered like the actual mechanics of doing this. And I'm in full support of what this bill is trying to accomplish. I just wanted to know more about how it was going to work, and are we given a mechanism that's going to work on a timeline for these situations? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Gillette, Mr. Fulton?
Madam Chair, if we detect anything that we feel is in violation of the fair bidding practices, we note that to our commission. And as Mr. Fulton said, we do have an attorney general sit in those meetings every month. The commission has a couple of choices there. They can award to the second low if we feel there is something wrong with the first or the low bid, or they can reject all bids, and we can let the project at a later time. But those are essentially the choices. We have rarely, but we have not awarded the bid and given another month to investigate and come back, say a month later at a commission meeting and made our recommendation to the commission, but that happens very rarely.
Director Reiner, go ahead.
Madam Chair, I think what I'd share with you from the director standpoint, I've been here about 2 years, and certainly one of the areas of concern I had when I took over this position was, what are our internal controls like in WYDOT relative to the bidding process? And I've spent some time, just reviewing that and watching what's gone on, and I take a lot of comfort and am very comfortable with our commission process. So the thing to keep in mind is, really an independent group of 7 individuals whose charge, appointed by the governor, approved by the Senate, is to ensure, throughout the state of Wyoming, all bids that are issued by WYDOT and all contracts let by WYDOT are fair. And I've watched the commission really contemplate about even the perception of an abnormal issue. And if there's even a perception, have watched the bid be rejected. And like my engineers have said, is certainly an attorney general rep is with us every step of the way. And so just from a public servant sort of standpoint, and ensuring that we get the best product and best contract for public money, I'm at this point very comfortable with our internal processes, and I think this to some degree this bill really instigates WYDOT standards throughout the state. Those are my comments, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Director. Final questions from the committee? All right, seeing none. Appreciate you being here, WYDOT. We'll keep you close by. If there's anyone else on Zoom who would like to testify on this bill, if you would raise your hand right now. I don't think that there is. I'll give you a minute. All right, seeing none, we'll go to the room. I think there's some folks in the room who would like to speak to the bill. Wyoming County Commissioners Association, welcome. Good to see you this morning.
Good morning, Madam Chairwoman, members of the committee. My name is Jeremiah Riemann. I'm here on behalf of the County Commissioners Association. I think all the parties, as we were contemplating this bill, were incredibly interested in ensuring that we weren't making felons of good people, whether that be contractors or public servants. And that's what the House amendments represent, is our attempt to ensure that this was focused on intentional acts of individuals, again, whether they're contractors or public servants. And so we do appreciate that those were adopted and are representative in this bill. And from that perspective, we can be supportive of that. Madam Chairman, if there was one issue that my members might express. It's whether we should be making felons out of first offenses. That said, because these are intentional acts, I'm not here to argue that we modify that, but that is something that I have heard. Madam Chairwoman, with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Riemann. Questions for Mr. Riemann? Mr. Riemann, do you believe that the bill is necessary?
Madam Chairwoman, there's certainly been that question. The reality is that these provisions are in federal law. So these acts are already prohibited and shouldn't be happening. So you could question whether it's necessary from that perspective to further enforce it at the local level. I will really leave that as a policy question for all of you, but it is something that my members and others ask.
Senator Kolb.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So is your opinion we don't need this because we've got federal stat regulations that kind of are already in place? But I'm not always a fan of, I guess, legislation for the sake of legislation. So I guess I am curious to follow up on your statement about, is it needed? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chairwoman, Senator Kolb, again, I would just rely on the fact that these are prohibited acts under federal law. And it has been a question that's been brought up. Some of my members have expressed, why do we need this? I think others in this room have expressed those same questions. I'm not here to tell you to defeat this bill. That's not my intention. That's not the position that my members have taken, but it is a question that's asked.
I'm buying time, Mr. Riemann.
By as much time.
You happen to be in the hot seat. All right, no, thank you, Mr. Riemann. I appreciate your comments on the bill. Any additional public comment on this bill? Yes, welcome. I think we have the Wyoming Association of Municipalities here this morning. Morning, Mr. McLaurin.
Good morning. My name is Bob McLaurin. I'm with the Wyoming Association of Municipalities. Like Mr. Riemann, our members were concerned at the original draft and are much more comfortable since the modifications were made in the previous in the House. So we're okay with this bill. Our members, like the county commissioners, all these acts are already illegal, and we're not sure that it's absolutely necessary, since anybody doing bid rigging or bid rotation or kickbacks can be charged under the federal statutes, but we're okay with it at this point.
Mr. McLaurin, have you ever heard of anyone getting charged in Wyoming for those crimes?
Madam Chairman, I have not. I did a small search when this bill first appeared in the searching back copies of the Star Tribune and the Wyoming Tribune Eagle, and I found one case, and it was regarding an oil field, something in an oil field. But there are, disputes with bids as indicated by the Highway Department. But I think that our members, like the members of the County Commission, we take the fairness of the process very, very seriously. And we have two rejected bids when there are irregularities. So, but I have not seen any or heard of any municipal projects that have involved with this.
Now, Mr. McLaurin, since it's a federal law and there was something unlawful occurring, to whom would that crime be reported to, and who would prosecute it?
Madam Chair, I'm not an attorney, but I would assume if there was a situation I was involved in, I would grab my city attorney and we would go see the district attorney and figure out where to prosecute it. But it may make sense to have a local state statute, but some of our members had questioned that, so.
Just walking everyone down the path. All right. Questions for Mr. McLaurin? Senator Kolb?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, just to be clear about currently how somebody be prosecuted be federally. And this would then bring it into a state statute for state prosecution. So I think there may be some benefit for that. But I know it's not widespread, but I think as everything, we have to keep a thumb on things because it can happen. I know it's happened, but we just have to keep on top of it. And I think this does help. So thank you.
Thank you.
There wasn't a question there, Mr. McLaurin, but thank you. Appreciate it. Any questions for Mr. McLaurin? All right, seeing none.
Thank you very
thank
much.
you. All right. Deacon Lehman, comments on public bidding? All right, no additional public comments and no additional public comments online. So with that, public comment is closed. Back to the committee. Committee House Bill 33. Is there a motion on the bill?
Move the bill.
Is there a second? Moved by Senator Kolb, seconded by Senator French. Discussion on the bill, amendments. Senator Kolb, now would be the time for any comments you might have on the bill.
Oh, I made my comment. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. Senator French? Seeing none, roll call on the bill.
Senator Cooper. He's not here. I'll hold it
Excused?
open for him. Or did
Nope,
he?
we'll close it. He did not leave a vote for that,
Okay.
so he's just excused. Absent.
Senator French,
No,
Senator Kolb,
Aye.
Senator Koss told me that he would give an aye vote.
Okay.
Chairman Nethercott,
Aye.
Madam Chair, this House Bill 33 passes with 3 ayes, 1 no, and 1 excused.
All right, thank you. All right, with that, we will go to House Bill 73.
Madam Chair, I just texted Representative Greer a couple minutes ago. He asked me to do that when we were ready and he would be here.
He's right here.
There he is.
Wonderful. Welcome, Representative Greer. It's great to see you over here on House Bill 73.
It's one of those Monday mornings.
Good morning, Representative. I apologize for not letting you know that this bill was up this morning, but I appreciate your personal responsibility and you being here this morning and coordinating the timing of everything.
Well, thank you.
It's great to see you. Do you want to walk us through House Bill 73, birth certificates, gestational agreements?
Sure. Madam Chairman and members of the Senate Judiciary Committee, House Bill 73 is a bill brought to me by a constituent. I don't have that many that come in, and it solves a problem and then created a great deal of discussion on top of it. And the issue was with a family in Washoe County who were not able to have a child. So they went through the process of getting a gestational carrier, which in that particular case happened to be the father's sister, if I recall correctly. And so they go through this process and put together a gestational carrier agreement for this to occur. And then they worked with a facility in Utah to go through the whole process. And what was brought forward to me was then for once the child is born, so the father can be put on the biological father can be put on the birth certificate, but the biological mother has to go through an adoption process after the fact. And so what this bill simply does is just says is if there is a gestational carrier agreement, that the mother, the biological mother, can be put on the birth certificate. The discussions that came up varied. Some of them are religious beliefs where there are groups who are against gestational carriers. And that's just something they don't believe in. And that's fine. I understand that and accept that. And that's what I told members on the House floor. Don't vote against your beliefs. But these agreements exist. They go on. They are carried on. And this is a process that streamlines it. It's probably not the right answer, but it does streamline it a little bit, but it also avoids really unnecessary legal fees for once the child is born, of having go through the court process. So the testimony in the House is relevant and interesting, and why we have an engrossed copy was a concern that we would have a cottage industry spring up in Wyoming as a result of having this legislation in place. And then also, which was disturbing to me, when the Department of Vital Records testified, they had some good comments regarding we didn't need to use a local registrar. Everything would go right to the Department of Vital Records. So we cleaned that up. But then they had made the comment that, well, this, I'd be delicate with this because I wasn't very happy with the comments. But that, well, there aren't many of these that happen, but we had dealt with one recently where we were able to get a birth certificate within 8 days. And then the child went to another country. It left me sitting there scratching my head. And so what that told me is some judges say that you have to go through the full adoption, and then other judges are pre-authorizing the birth certificate. Well, that's not good policy in the state. We should be consistent on how our judges are handling these matters. And then second of all, I included my own amendment on page 3, line 13, that the intended parents have to be residents of the state of Wyoming. I have no desire to create any cottage industry such as it might develop in Wyoming. My goal is to help Wyoming parents who want to have a child be able to have a process where it doesn't cost them a tremendous amount in attorney's fees or the added burden of the baby being born and then going through an adoption, plus making sure that our separate district court judges are treating this fairly or equally the same way. So that's a 30,000-foot overview. I'd walk through the bill if you would like, Madam Chairman. It's up to whatever the committee would like.
Representative Greer, thank you. Excellent explanation. A quick question for you. Do you have any constituents to speak on the bill?
Do I have any constituents? So they did in the House committee. They emailed me and asked for the link, and I said, go here, here, and there. And I don't know if they were able to get in or
Ms.
not.
Donnelly? Is that Ms. Donnelly?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Oh, there we go.
Ms. Donnelly?
Yeah, there you
Yes,
go.
we can hear you.
Yeah.
Ms. Donnelly, we'll come to you in just a minute.
Yeah.
We're going to go ahead and take questions from the committee for the representative. Any questions, Senator Kolb?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Other states that do this, that have these type of agreements or statutes, number one. Number two, I don't know if there's an issue with this, but just a general question. DNA testing on the baby after it's born to make sure that it's in fact the from the parents who are in this process. Is there any verification of that, or is it just we're hoping for the best here? Yeah, I've heard of some things happen nationwide with people manipulating things and not getting what you thought with your child. And I wanted your comments and opinions about that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Representative?
Yeah, Madam Chairman. And then Senator Kolb, there are other states. Utah actually has a very long and detailed whole section of their statutes, but they do a lot of these types of procedures in Utah. So they have built this around sort of, and Utah has their research and their universities. So there are other states that I'm aware of. I went with the simplest path forward that I could find. Now, with respect to the DNA testing, and then Janelle might be able to testify to this a little bit more, but there are, they go to extreme lengths to make sure that the carrier is not pregnant and that the fertilized egg is inserted and placed in the uterus. And so that, you never say never on anything with nature, but they take extreme measures to make sure that those things do not happen. So hopefully that answers your question.
Senator Kolb?
Kinda. Thank you, Madam Chair. Specifically, the baby. do they DNA test the baby to make sure that it matches the mother and father? That was my question.
So, Chairman or Madam Chairman, Senator, I'm actually not certain how they do that. In an adoption, they don't, because that's a voluntary process. So you don't do DNA testing there. And if this bill were to pass and come into law, there would not be any DNA testing either. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you, Representative Greer. Any additional questions for the representative? Seeing none. Welcome, Mr. and Mrs. Donnelly. It's good to see you this morning. If you would introduce yourselves to the committee with your names and where you're from, and share with us your thoughts on this bill.
My name is Janelle Donnelly, and I'm the intended mother in this process. And this is my husband, Dave Donnelly, and we live in Worland, Wyoming. And today, I guess I'm just actually trying to get this process to where it would be easier. They do, when we take the egg out of me and the sperm from Dave and put them together, and then it's actually my sister-in-law that we're using. They actually test her several times to see if she is pregnant before the transfer takes place. And then once the transfer takes place, they do a pregnancy test again. And that's when it's our baby. And that's 2 weeks after the transfer does take place. Does that answer the question?
And Ms. Donnelly, I understand that this process is quite expensive. Would you like to provide some comments about that? And really, I'm driving at the level of, I think, preparation and intent and care and cost that goes into this type of circumstance to provide some of those kind of common sense, natural, I think, protections associated with who the baby belongs to. If you could speak to some of that.
How it works through our fertility center that we used, we had to have a contract in place between us and our sister-in-law, and it's actually our brother-in-law had to be in on it too, but it's already set in place by the fertility center itself. So we had that contract, and then we had to go back through and do another contract, and then plus the adoption. So I mean, I think we have like a total of 4 contracts right now that have been set in place saying this is our baby. And like I said, she's tested several times to make sure that she is not pregnant, to make sure that it is our baby. And the legal fees on everything, they just keep climbing, actually. And I don't know what else to do on that, but it is a pretty expensive process.
Is it fair to say that the whole process together, tens of thousands of dollars?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
All right. Any additional questions for the Donnellys? Well, thanks for being here. We appreciate you sharing your story with us and having the courage to do so. And thank you for participating in this process.
Thank you.
All right. With that, we'll go to any further public comment. It looks like we have Mr. Bedoin from the Office of Vital Statistics.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Members of the committee, Guy Bedoin with the Wyoming Department of Health Vital Statistics Services. I'm a little remiss. I had a couple of comments during the House reading of this bill that I should have probably been a little more prepared for and active with. I wanted to, if I could, this engrossed copy that we read right now is very supportable for the Department of Health and streamlines a lot of elements with regards to getting an agreement such as this to the agency, much as Representative Greer noted. So thank you very much for supporting and moving that. What I wanted to do today is, as I've gone through and read this more, a couple of questions have surfaced, and I wanted to give you just a couple of quick statistics. So as the Donnellys noted in their House testimony, there have been, we've done 2 of these agreements. Their agreement is one that we're still waiting for the child to be delivered. But as we look at that, so Wyoming last year, we had 6,244 births in Wyoming. Of those, 5,619 occurred in Wyoming, so those were occurrent births, and 625 of those occurred outside of the state. So that would be a resident having a child outside of the state. 106 of those births total, the mothers were transferred to another facility, and I can't tell you the number that were transferred out of the state of Wyoming because the birth certificates here only record when a mother delivers in Wyoming, and we note where that she was transferred from one in-state facility to another. And then 167 children were transferred. So of those 5,619 that were delivered here, 167 were transferred out. The reason I bring this up is that as I look at the bill, and if I look at page 3 as an example, line 4, it talks about any child that is delivered here in Wyoming under one of these agreements. And we talk about things that quote unquote can and can't happen, and in this case can happen. And I'm just concerned that we'll be able to take care of all of those individuals that are birthed in Wyoming, but I don't know what's going to happen if a child then is transferred and then the biological parents go to the facility to try to take the child or try to administer care. And the second piece of that is if the mother is transferred and delivers outside of the state, whether or not this agreement would be honored. That might be a little bit of undue pressure and cause some problems for the biological parents. I also wanted to clarify one point, and maybe I should stand for any questions on that, Madam Chairman. If you have any comments or questions with regards to those numbers, and then I have one more comment.
Thank you. Questions from Representative Greer? Representative Greer?
I guess, Madam Chair, I'm trying to get this correct to make this workable. And I guess what, is most disconcerting to me is we don't have a clear policy on this, and it's being administered differently and read differently through the jurisdictions. And so you just made the comment, sir, that you haven't seen this agreement yet. You will not see this agreement from this family that I brought this forward to, because the judge in their district says they have to go through and get an adoption. Their baby is due in April. This bill does not help them. You won't see their agreement. So I guess my question is how many agreements do you see? Because I don't see any reason in the state of Wyoming right now that you would issue a birth certificate under one of these agreements unless it was accompanied by a court order pre-approving.
Mr. Bedoin, if you'd like to respond to that.
Yes, Madam Chairman and Representative Greer. And Representative Greer, maybe I misspoke. We do have the Donnelly family's court order. So it's been sent to us. Its status is pending the birth of the child. So in this particular case, we have that agreement, that court order is ready for us to go. So I apologize for any miscommunication. None of these agreements, there have been no notarized documents that have been sent to us. What I'm speaking of specifically are court orders. So in this particular case, this court order from this family is in our office, and it's pending the delivery from the gestational carrier.
Questions from the senators? Senator French?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Greer. On page 3, line 10 and 11, why did you choose 21 years and of age and older? Because there might be young married couple that for whatever reason want to enter into, if they're 19, maybe they're 20. Just curious.
Madam Chairman, and then Senator French, same question I got on the House side is why the age of majority is 18 in Wyoming. I just picked 21 just because it's a little older. I hate to say it was arbitrary, but 21 is not arbitrary. We kind of have things at 18 and then 21. And I just chose that older age. It was all sender. If it was changed to 18, it's fine. There's no real reason why.
All right. Mr. Burdoin, back to you. Your second comment on the bill, if you'd like to proceed with that.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Comment 2, and the Donleys made note of this in their discussions too, and I wanted to ensure, so let's have a scenario as an example whereby a gestational carrier has a pregnancy and takes the pregnancy to 22 weeks and then unfortunately delivers a stillborn child. If we, as we publish the stillbirth certificate, we're looking at the carrier who expulsed the child is going to be noted on the stillborn certificate. I think that there could be some argument or some issues that would arise with regards to one of these agreements as to who would be listed on that particular document. So those are some questions, and Representative Greer noted it, that there are a number of states who have more detailed elements of the law that cover these types of agreements. And I think there's probably a good reason for that, and I think that Senator Cole brought this up too. There are a lot of things that can happen. And I think in this particular case, I don't know if the language that we have will cover us with regards to, or give us the opportunity to ensure that the live birth mother, that would be the carrier who expulsed the child, is listed as the carrier or the mother on a stillborn certificate as well. So right now that's up in the air. I think I could promulgate some rules. We could promulgate rules and have them reviewed. But right now that would be another issue that may arise with regards to this type of an agreement. The last thing that I have then, Madam Chairman, is that with regards to the adoption, so, and since the Donleys brought this up, I'll use their scenario. After their child is born, because Mr. Donley's sister is married, if this agreement wasn't in place and there were no court orders, Mr. Donley's name would not be put on the certificate automatically. He would still have to file an affidavit acknowledging paternity, and the carrier's husband would have to sign a denial in an effort to have him listed. So there are still some other activities and actions that would have to take place. It's not an automatic thing where one person is listed and say the mother, the biological mother's who provided the egg, her name, she would have to go through a court order. Her name would not be listed. Nothing is automatic. There are still papers and there are still affidavits that would have to be completed in order for these elements to be listed on a birth certificate in Wyoming. And with that, Madam Chairman, I'll stand for any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Questions, Mr. Burdoin? Seeing none, Mr. Burdoin, thank you. All right, any additional public comment on the bill? Deacon, come forward, please. Welcome, Deacon Lehman. Good to see you this morning.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Mike Lehman. I represent the Catholic Diocese of Cheyenne. I don't have a prepared statement this morning. I think I was better prepared on the House testimony, so I apologize. This is one of those areas that we see sort of medical advancements and technology outpacing our laws and sort of our thinking in general. And that is what we've kind of heard is this, these things are happening. And what we've seen is that other states are sort of seeing that they're happening and developing laws to protect individuals, couples that are seeking to have a child, and then also the carriers. And so while there are religious considerations there, for me this morning, I think the real concern is legal and sort of the philosophical precedents that we could be forwarding unless we're careful. I shared the story, the state to the north and east of us. There's a colleague up there who was sharing stories because they've tried to outlaw surrogacy in that state, and that failed. They also tried to include in statute allowing surrogacy, and that also failed. So they're sort of in the middle of this grappling also. And he shared just a couple of the testimonies from gestational carriers who shared their experience. One young woman who was contacted by a couple from Spain, and they drew up the contract to have twins, a boy and a girl. But because even with our advancements, we can't always control what happens. The little girl died in utero. The little boy ended up becoming twin boys. And that couple from Spain was furious because, in their words, they didn't pay for two boys. And that's the ultimate philosophical sort of precedent that concerns me, is that we're talking about contracts. And I approach this with care. My wife and I were not able to conceive of children. And so I don't in any way want to downplay the real struggle, the difficulty that couples have in conceiving children. That's just one of those concerns. And so I very much appreciated the amendment that was brought in the House to try to answer that with the foreign, with the year Wyoming. I'm struggling. I'm sorry what I'm trying to say here.
The residency.
The residency. Thank you, Madam Chairman. So that's the kind of discussion that we're hoping to enhance and have on this, because it's happening. It has been happening and around the country. And the other thing is, if we're not careful, we can create a situation where we actually expose vulnerable women, because they do get paid in certain circumstances to do this. And so very much appreciate the conversation and the opportunity to speak on that. And with that, I would stand for any questions.
Thank you, Deacon Lehman. Any questions for the Deacon? All right, seeing none, appreciate hearing from you.
Thank you very much.
Back to you, Representative Greer. Final comments on the bill?
Madam Chairman, I appreciate your legal background with the final rebuttal. That's refreshing. Thank you. Senators, these agreements exist. This practice is going on. I respect the last speaker's views strongly. I do. But these do exist. My comments, what I'm looking at is really directed towards the Department of Vital Records. I'm very concerned about the comments I heard in the House committee and about the comments that were made here again, which were one excuse after another why this wouldn't work. They're 45, 60 days out getting death certificates, so that people can't deal with joint accounts and manage their assets. And they're concerned about these longstanding hypotheticals. What I did hear from that testimony yet again is it's an arbitrary, how they're doing this is just however they want to do it at the Department of Vital Records. This gives a path forward. This gives them clear direction on how to do it when there's a gestational agreement. The protection that I put in place, it's not comprehensive protection, but was dealing with the residency requirement of the intended parents is helpful. You hear this all the time, but this was a very easy approach forward for folks that are trying to do something they believe in, that they're doing it the correct way, and they don't have to go back to court again and incur additional legal fees. And then we also have with this statute, if it passes, it would have a clear direction on how we would deal with birth certificates in this situation. And again, these do exist. These are going on as we exist. And I'll just leave it at that and ask for your support. Thank you.
Representative Greer, going to turn your attention to page 4. And responding to the concerns regarding a stillbirth. This is not my area of expertise, is the difference between a stillbirth birth certificate as compared to a live birth certificate. But when I read 35-1-410, I still think the stillbirth is covered as a result of the agreement. The stillbirth child is still birthed. And I don't know if an amendment right there on page 4, line 18, upon the birth or stillbirth, would satisfy those concerns without being a subject matter expert on understanding the differences between those concepts in the law. I don't know that that's necessary, and I don't want to provide an amendment that would harm the bill. But your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Madam Chairman, I was unfortunately couldn't look up if a stillbirth was still covered under that. I don't think it, well, one, it does not hurt it at all, because you see the intended parents intend to be the parents.
Right.
Okay. And so if this committee were to make that amendment, I think all that does is give a point of clarity, and sure wouldn't hurt the bill at all, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know that it's necessary, Representative. I think gives birth to the child on line 15. There's no distinction made here that the child is living or deceased. You know, it's just who gives birth, and if there's an agreement in place, then it's the parents pursuant to the agreement. So I'm not sure that that's necessary, but just wanted to give you an opportunity to address those concerns. I do see that Mr. Bedoin has his hand raised if he wants to join us again and maybe respond to that, and then we're going to close public comment. But Mr. Bedoin, if you're still there and your hand is raised, feel free to start your video and welcome back.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. So 35-1-419 discusses stillbirth registration, and really under that particular element of the law, it's a recording of an event, and the event really records information associated with the carrier's either ability or inability maybe to complete the 39 or 40 weeks of gestation for the child. Really, we're looking at it from more of a medical perspective. I think you're correct with regards to any child. The term on page 3, the child is exposed. I think really the difference, or maybe the issue, might just arise in maybe the discussion between the gestational carrier and the birth mother, or the natural mothers. The natural mother would be listed on the stillbirth as the carrier on the stillbirth certificate. And just one other point then of clarification, we do complete death certificates on average in 11.8 days in the state of Wyoming. So as far as the registration is concerned, like I've noted before, I think we can use this type of an agreement to complete the certificates in a timely manner. My only comment is that to ensure that there is no requirement for legal action after a birth, some of the points could well be clarified. This being one of them, whether or not the gestational carrier is listed as the deliverer or the live birth mother on the stillbirth certificate. And again, that can be found in 35-1-419. That's all I have, ma'am. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Senator Kolb.
Oh, no comment.
Okay. Final questions for the representative? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Representative. Public comment is now closed. Committee, back to you. Is there a motion on the bill?
Move the bill.
Is there a second? Moved by Senator Kolb, seconded by Senator French. Any amendments to the bill?
I have one possibly, Madam Chair.
We're going to keep the representative nearby. Just a reminder to committee members, unlike on Senate files, when a House bill comes over, any amendments that we make will require the bill to go back to the House for a conference committee. So it provides some complications to the bill, just as a reminder to the new senators about that process. Senator Kolb, let's hear your amendment.
Page 4, line 18, after birth, insert or stillbirth, and then continue on of a child under gestational agreement. So it's just basically inserting or stillbirth after birth, line 18. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Kolb, Representative. I'm going to give you my thoughts about that. I don't feel confident doing that without looking at 35-1-419, which is the stillbirth section. And so what I would like to do instead, addressing those concerns, is recognizing whether or not it needs to take place. And I'll let you guys second and decide for yourselves, as maybe out of the committee when we have a chance to look at that statute, and let the representative look at that statute to determine if that's necessary. And then we can bring that as a committee of the whole amendment.
I'll withdraw the proposed amendment.
Representative.
Madam Chairman, yeah, I'll look at that. Again, not an area of my legal expertise by any stretch, but sure, Senator, I'll follow up with you.
I think that's probably the best place for addressing these agreements is probably in that statute that deals with stillbirth certificates. And so we will look for the good representative to do some work on that and see if perhaps an amendment can be made to this bill referencing that statutory section.
Madam Chairwoman, what was the specific site again? I make sure I got it right. 35-1.
419.
419. I did not have it right. Thank you. Okay.
All right. Any additional discussion on the bill? Senator Kolb.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for bringing this. This is an issue. Technology has advanced. In my own family, there's been some issues around this same area, and it's physically very demanding, mentally difficult, and certainly very expensive. So thank you for trying to tackle this. Thank you.
Thank my constituents for pushing me to do it.
It is outside your wheelhouse, Representative Greer. It's refreshing not to see a trust amendment. All right. Any final questions for the representative? Senator Cooper? All right. Or thoughts, comments? Roll call vote on the bill, Judy. Thank you.
Senator Cooper.
Aye.
Senator French.
Aye.
Senator Kolb.
Aye.
Senator Cost. Again, he told me it would be an aye vote. And Chairman Nethercott. So Madam Chair, House Bill 73 passes with 5 ayes.
All right, Senator Cooper, you'll take this bill on the floor and I'll back you up, okay? All right, Senator Kolb, you'll take House Bill 33 and I'll back you up, okay?
Thank you, Madam.
All right.
You know, Brian.